Hello, this is Angelo, and we are here for a very special masterclass, a very special reason, because as most of you know, back in January 1st, we concluded 10 full years of daily shots of inspiration. So, this hobby of mine that got started back in January 1st, 2015, got 10 years old, and of course, with all of that journey comes a lot, of embarrassing moments, a lot of happy moments, a lot of wisdom, and of course, a lot of magic moments that I want to share with you today. And this is why we're here today, basically, to create a milestone and celebrate together, elevate our energy together, and take advantage of the magic moments and the wisdom from these 10 years to create an amazing 2025 and on, of course. Before we begin, as always, I want to thank you for being here, and I want to congratulate you for being here. And you also want to congratulate yourself, because you know by now how easy it is to get distracted, derailed from your vision. And just by being here alone, you prove to yourself, you demonstrate to yourself that you're not negotiating your vision. Now, of course, you want to turn off all notifications. Make sure there will be no distractions. I believe today's masterclass will stretch to about 60 minutes because it is so much I want to share with you. And of course, also, you want to make sure that you keep as many notes as you wish, but always remember that you will be having the replay at your disposal if you prefer. So if you want to focus entirely on what we will be discussing here. Last but not least, I want to remind you that we have crossed the point of no return, meaning that the only outcome that you allow in your consciousness is you landing happily and safely at your desired destination. Now, the question that I begin each and every webinar with, the question that you want to ask yourself many times during the day: how do you feel? Because always remember that the better you feel, the better the quality of your life is right now, and the more energy you have towards achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve. Also, I want to remind you today, as you probably know, I had, the flu, and then I lost my voice, and now I'm struggling with my voice. And this is how important it is to keep your spirits, to your energy high, your elevated energy, so that you make the most out of every moment, regardless of circumstances. Now, let's get on it. As I promised, 10 magic moments and 10 amazing, very powerful, for me, priceless lessons from this 10-year journey. Magic moment number 1. I will go back to October 25th at 2:43 a.m. Greek time, where basically I jumped off bed with the idea of daily shots of inspiration. And I stormed to the living room and I took my notebook and I started taking notes, all these downloads, this block of thoughts that I had. And let me tell you, no matter how fast I could write, I couldn't possibly keep up with this thought block. But at the same moment, I felt what I was feeling was so exhilarating that I have decided, and I made a note of that, I have decided to pause and basically embrace the feeling. This is how powerful and how amazing that feeling was. And always remember, this is like a note within the note. Always remember that the language of your subconscious is feelings, meaning this is why you want to feel great with the downloads that you have, even though they're not there yet. Most people, what are they hoping for? To feel happy when they achieve something, right? And they feel bad in the journey. And this is why most of them cannot cope with the development of their life. And this is why most give up at some point. So this energy, this download that I have, this block of thoughts came also with an amazing feeling energy. And this is what was my fuel to get started and get going. Magic moment number 2. It was the first webinar that I had on January 8th, 2015. It was for my Greek audience back then. It was the only one I had. So it was, as always, most of the times it's 7 p.m. Greek time, as it is today. So what was happening? I had amazing energy. I had prepared the most exciting, the most amazing webinar, like for my first webinar. And to get this series of webinars started for the first year, and as I promised myself, I have this 3x3 webinar method that I will not explain today. I have given the insights in another webinar, in a previous webinar. But part of this process is when the webinar ends, the first thing that I'm doing is go back and watch it as a student, and also as a student of evolving my presentation skills. So I was so excited to listen to Angelo and see how I did and everything. And guess what? There was no sound. So it was a 50-minute webinar from 7 p.m. to 7:50 p.m. And 10 minutes later, I rushed and started doing the webinar again for the second time. And why is this a magic moment? Because this was the moment that I realized that the force pulling me forward to be of value to you is much, much stronger than any obstacle. This is where I realized that I didn't care about how silly it was for me to be presenting with no sound for 50 minutes and having no way of knowing. I didn't have some kind of feedback back then. And 10 minutes later, do the webinar again with a bit more sore throat or anything, but still with the same 100% level of perseverance and persistence to make sure that I deliver my very best. Magic moment number 3. It was a few months later on May of about 15 months later on May of 2016 that I promised my first online course. It was called Espresso Academy, and I promised 31 days of training and 31 live sessions. So each and every day I was preparing for a session, and then I would deliver that live for 31 days. And on the 31st day, which was July 1st, 2016, I got started, because this was the moment that I realized how huge that commitment was for me and my experience level. But again, I realized that my will to be of value to you was much, much stronger than all the technical obstacles, of creating 31 presentations and delivering them live almost in real time. I was preparing for like the next day, and I was delivering the content. And of course, this took a toll on me, but you couldn't notice. This is how high my energy was just for being of value to you. Magic moment number 4, we will go forward again a few months to December 13th of 2016, because this is where I wrote and published a book within 17 hours. Yes, because I read that in Iceland, all they give for Christmas is books. And I thought, it would be a great idea to give a book to each and every member of my Daily Shots of Inspiration community. But that was like thousands of people, right? And of course, I didn't have any book to give. So without noticing, like all the limitations, I just found myself typing and writing a book. And this is where I also came up with the phrase, I felt as if I was secretary of the universe. Basically, the fingers would move on their own. And as I was downloading the inspiration, I was just typing. I wasn't paying attention to all the limitations, like thoughts like, how on earth will you deliver? How on earth will you write a book in a few days or a few weeks? I wasn't thinking about that. And I resurfaced about 17 hours later, realizing that not only the book was ready, just because of technology, all I had to do is to deliver a PDF file. And, I would bring this book to the hands of thousands of people around the world. And this is exactly what happened. Of course, it is a day that I celebrate since, because it reminds me of what can be accomplished when you put yourself in a state of flow. And you know by now how important it is to me and all the teachings that I'm giving all year long. Because the very first thing that we care about is how you feel, because this is how you put yourself in a state of flow. Now, magic moment number 5. It was a moment because back then, my daily shots of inspiration and all my webinars, it was basically just a hobby. I wasn't making much money out of it. So I felt that I was putting too much time on my hobby and what I love to do, giving value to others. And I was neglecting my core business, which was, of course, back then, my digital marketing agency. So I felt that I'm doing a disservice to my business. And I really, really, really thought of quitting. No matter how harsh it was for me, and it was like truly excruciating. The pain of just the idea of quitting was excruciating. And I thought, and I told Alexandra, you know what? I'm really, really thinking about giving up these daily sorts of inspiration and giving up all these personal development masterclasses, because I believe it is going, like against my core business. A few minutes later, a client who has become a friend calls, and he says he was calling from his car phone, and he says, as he was driving to his business, he says, I don't know why, but I felt the nudge to call you and tell you how grateful I am for all the help and support you have given me, besides your digital marketing expertise, meaning my business coaching and all the mentorship that I've given. And immediately I realized what on earth I was thinking. I have to find a way to make this work. I have to find a way to make this not consume time, but give me more energy to achieve more. So, magic moment number 6. It was during my second live event where we had 12 core affirmations, 12 core beliefs that we were engraving during this one day seminar. And at the end of it, we were giving these affirmations, as loud as possible. And as I was looking at the audience, I was realizing in real time, I could feel in real time the energy getting higher. And not only that, of course, our minds being reprogrammed. I felt the energy and that shift that can happen when many people gather up with one single purpose: to elevate their consciousness to the point where they can truly believe that their dreams can become a reality. Magic moment number 7. It was on January 1st, 2020. So 5 years back, where I decided that I truly want to do the English version of the Daily Shots of Inspiration. And of course, it wasn't a thought that came back then. It was many months back, But of course, I was struggling with thoughts like, I'm not good enough for this. Where do you think you're going, Angelo, with titans like Tony Robbins and Brendan Burchard and Ed Milet and so on? Where do you think you're going? But then I thought of one of my favorite songs, which is Fix You by Coldplay. And if you know the verse, it goes, but if you never try, you'll never know. I wish I could sing with this voice, but that would be virtually impossible. And this is where it dawned on me that I truly will never know how much I can be of value if I don't go for it. So this is what I did. I went for it. And not only that, I was making sure that I delivered the value in the sense that my English audience would appreciate. So again, I put like more workload on each and every day of mine, but at the same time, it felt like I was on the right path simply because I was doing, like my calling, and I wasn't paying attention on the time that I was investing in it. I was paying attention on all the wisdom and expertise and emotional support that came from it. Now, number 8. It was during the first lockdown from COVID. And I did like a 3-day series called Antivirus because it was the moment that I felt from the collective unconscious of all my audience as if I was hearing people shouting help, because there were so many emotions that were not being processed back then. Everything was happening so fast and people didn't know how to handle this. This was like a first thing event, right? And so many of us were not able to process the emotions and all these changes. And I remember how, like intense it was for me to create these webinars. It had nothing to do with any other webinar because usually we are on a relatively high emotional state and all we are doing is pushing to, like go even higher to what we call the happy and unstoppable state. But back then, it had nothing to do with being happy and unstoppable, and it had everything to do with feeling, like that you could simply survive out of this. So, magic moment number 9 was a couple of weeks later, where I got an amazing testimonial. During these years, I get so many amazing replies, like thank you, like the daily shots of inspiration have truly changed my life. This is like the best way for me to start my day and all these things. But back then, I received a testimonial saying, thank you from my heart for the short, laconic, we say in Greece, it was from a person here in Greece, meaning like really short, but also concise. So thank you from my heart for the short, concise, and so important daily shots of inspirations that you share with us, that together with my meditation help me and all my team in the ER make through it. So they were, like struggling with all these like serious COVID cases back then. And she felt that this was like the key thing to keep their spirits high enough to cope each and every day. And this, again, for me was an amazing moment because I realized that sometimes, and this is what I learned from Trent Shelton, many times you will never ever know how far the value that you produce goes. So for example, today, I can tell you something that you find of value, and then you convey that knowledge to somebody else, and there is a domino effect that I will never know. Same goes with what you have within as well, of course. Now, magic moment number 10. It was the realization that, like when you use the binary system and you say, you know what, I'm tired of all these gray zones. Either I'm going to create what I believe is my ideal life or not, right? And this is where it became apparent to me that you are doing a great service to yourself by calling this your super life and everything else your sloppy life. And this attitude, your super self, and everything else, your sloppy self. So, as you may have noticed during the last 6 to 8 months, we have started increasing the frequency with which we use the word super in anything and everything we do, simply because we are creating what I call Suli Subu consciousness. And Suli Subu, let me remind you, comes from super life and super business. And this is what we will be building even stronger during 2025 and on. This is like the technology put all together, because now I have realized that the person who has achieved everything I want is my super self. This is the definition of super self. And if you want to know more about it, you can go back and watch the master classes that we had in the last few months. To me, they're gold, because it is putting like everything into a much more clear perspective, and it is easier for someone new to this community to follow. Now, as I always love to do, I want to go the extra mile. And I know I promised 10 magic moments, but of course, I want to give you an 11th one. And this 11th magic moment is this right here, because this could have never happened if I wasn't persisting and persevering through all these challenges for 10 years. And also you, because many of you are from day one in this journey, right? So can you imagine persisting during these 10 years? And I know how easy it is, to say, okay, I've read yesterday's sort of inspiration, I can miss one day. But of course, those of you who are starting your day with it and are finding the value of this compounding effect, now you feel this exhilaration. Now you feel this level of gratitude of what has happened in your consciousness during these 10 years. And basically, without putting the work, without like putting such an intense effort for 10 years and persevering, this magic moment could have never happened. It would have been just another webinar, just another masterclass. Definitely not something worth celebrating so much. So, once again, I want to take a moment like to really feel the gratitude from all this journey before we move on to the 10 that you know by now. It's going to be 11 most valuable lessons. Now, lesson number 1, it was, we will go back to the 25th of October 2014. So when I had this download. And why we go back to this date? Because the first lesson is that this block of thought that I had back then had everything it needed to materialize if I didn't have any resistance whatsoever. So if you have a seed is like a nucleus. And within that nucleus, there is all the wisdom it takes. So yes, it's going to need some watering and some sunlight and maybe some other form of nutrition, but that seed is not basically a seed. It's a tree in the making, right? So this is what is meant by having true divine inspiration. Never again, no matter what it is, your download, never again discount your ideas All they need is some watering. All they need is some caring. These ideas contain the how. All you have to do is let it. All you have to do is elevate your consciousness to the point that you firmly believe that not only it can be done, not only I deserve this, but also basically mentally and emotionally it is done already. All I have to do is let go of the resistance and let this idea bloom into reality. Lesson number 2. It is what we call by now happiness first lifestyle, happiness first technology. The idea that truly your number one priority is how you feel, because this affects everything else. The quality of your life right now, as we've already said, and also how much energy you have towards achieving whatever it is that you want to achieve. Now, lesson number 3. It is the wedge thought that goes between a circumstance and your reaction to it. So you know by now that your thoughts lead to feelings, and those feelings lead to actions, and those actions lead to some events, and the events trigger what? A new thought. So every time there is a circumstance in your life, and you might say, you know what, I don't like Angelo today, and I'm feeling very mad about it. You feel mad because of the thought you had in between. So maybe you don't like my presentation right now, and you feel mad about it, but it was a thought that occurred in a fraction of a second, maybe an unconscious one, that led you to that feeling. And when you know this is extremely liberating, because now you know that you are the master of your thought. So you are the captain of your emotional state, and consequently your actions, and consequently your results. So all you have to do is basically focus. Focus. The more you focus and the more you protect your focus, this protects your vision. Lesson number 4, the distinction between blame and fault. And blame has to do with the past. When we talk about responsibility, we talk about the future. So many times we look for people to blame for our failures, even if it is ourselves. So all you can do about this is feel bad about it, right? But what truly matters? You're here. Maybe you don't like it here. But what truly matters is you arriving at your destination, you achieving your goal, you making your vision a reality, which means that the only thing that matters is not who's to blame, but who will take the responsibility for your vision. And that cannot be any other than you. And this is like the most liberating moment, because you take your power back. Lesson number 5, the realization that most people are struggling because they're not dealing with the real problem. So you might ask, Angelo, you think you know my life better than I do? No, but I know what the real problem is. So you think that the real problem most probably is like the biggest obstacle between you and your destination, right? So maybe you right now you have like a piercing headache or something, I don't know, and you think this is the real problem. No, it's not. The real problem is not even the fact that you feel bad about it. The real problem is not even the fact that you've tried to find reasons why you have that problem. It's not even that. The real problem is the delusion that by thinking this way and feeling this way, you will somehow magically arrive at your destination. And it cannot be done simply because you cripple your inner power, you cripple your creativity, you cripple everything that can be of value to you simply by feeling bad about it. And this is, again, an extremely liberating realization and lesson. This is why you want to make sure that you take this problem out of the way just by assuming responsibility and making sure you feel your best regardless of circumstances. Lesson number 6. This is, again, it took me years to realize, you don't have to understand anything. It's not an intellectual game that we're playing here. All you have to do is follow the rules, play by the rules of winning. So here in Greece, the army is compulsory for men. So I had a service in the Air Force for 20 months. And one of the first things that I realized is that nobody will explain to me why this is the order. I was just being given orders and I was following orders. That was the game. Imagine how much simpler, easier, and more amazing your life will be when you realize that your conscious mind, all it does is give orders, clear, compelling orders, and then your subconscious delivers. This is all it takes for an amazing life. Lesson number 7. Binary makes everything easier. So I'm going to take you back to the 10th magic moment where I told you this idea of not having all these gray zones and all this clutter in our lives. And again, this lesson is very powerful. Binary makes everything easier. Are you going to watch the webinar or not? Are you going to make 2025 your best year ever yet or not? Make everything simple as that. As simple as that. Just 2 choices is enough. And of course, once you put yourself in truly the driver's seat of your mental and emotional state, you will only have one choice basically, because you know by now, like I was telling you before, it is virtually impossible for me to say I quit on my dreams by now, because I know that since I can affect the outcome, there is something that I have to change. That's all it takes. So always remember, stop putting like gray zones in any area of your life. Make sure you have clarity. Is it going to be like this or not? Now, lesson number 8. Stop looking for limiting beliefs. This was for me mind-blowing. I was trained to look for my limiting beliefs. I was trained to look for all the reasons why I don't have what I want. And you know what? Since energy flows where your focus goes, basically what was happening is I was translating everything as if this is the reason why I still don't have what I want. So the game-changing attitude would be to stop justifying why you don't yet have what you want and start justifying why it is a done deal to arrive at your destination. So, of course, you know how important this distinction is on a psychological level, because it liberates you. Stop looking for limiting beliefs. Start looking for the reasons why it's going to be done or it is done, depending on how fortified your emotions are. Now, lesson number 9. how important that lesson is, I cannot begin to tell you. Lesson number 9, don't miss the chance. It was a realization that I had like 2 to 3 months back. And I was feeling very bad about like a development that was not there yet for me. And basically, I was kind of self-beating myself. And I was hoping for some kind of revelation, some kind of resolution. And I was truly struggling mentally and emotionally when it dawned on me. And of course, you must have read the daily shot of inspiration about what I'm going to tell you now. Don't miss the opportunity. What opportunity? The opportunity to feel self-confidence rather than just confidence. Self-confidence is something that comes from within. So every time we achieve something, our confidence level goes up, and that's great news. But again, this is something you rely on, that level of success for your confidence level to go up. But if having the challenge, having the problem in your life, you look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, it is done. You know what, you cannot, no, nothing can stop me. Then you know that you got you've given yourself one of the best presents, because you now have self-confidence. You don't need any kind of development to elevate your consciousness. You just feel great because you have unleashed the power within. Lesson number 10, it's the compounding effect. It is what happens once you truly embrace the fact that by starting every single day, by investing just like 30 seconds to read your daily shot of inspiration, and then maybe another 30 seconds to contemplate on it, wondrous things happen. As long as you embrace the compounding effect. As long as you are wholeheartedly in this journey of your personal development, of your evolution, to the point that you truly are the captain of your destiny, and you truly know that all your desires will turn into realities simply because you are elevating yourself to the point where you see your super self in the mirror. And last but not least, the extra mile. It is like an overview of all the lessons. And it has to do with the punchline that I end each and every daily shot of inspiration during these 10 years. And that punchline goes, I'm sure you know it by heart by now, you deserve everything you want, and we all deserve your best self. Meaning that no desire is like too good for you. Meaning that no idea, no dream, no concept for your future is too big for you. But all you have to do is your part to elevate your mental and emotional state to the point that you can truly say, you know what? Mentally and emotionally, it is done. I can see it. It is what we call the happy landing exercise. And then go about making this a reality for you. Making not only all your dreams a reality, this is like the one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is making you a much, much better, a much, much happier, and much more loving cell of the greater body called humanity. And I'm sure if you like follow the news for just a little bit, you know how important that is. And in closing, I want to remind you that this is the core for me for leadership. First, you have to become a leader of your mental and emotional state. And once this is fortified, it is basically like an automatic desire to be as much value as possible to society at large, to the world at large. So, that said, I'm happy to announce that I went faster than planned, and this concludes this anniversary, this 10-year anniversary of the daily shots of inspiration. And we are almost ready to cross the 3,700 day mark, which will happen in a few days' time. And of course, that means that the best is yet to come, simply because I intend to make this 10-year journey an investment for what will be delivered from now on. All I ask from you is to invest like 30 seconds to start your day with your daily shot of inspiration. And if you find it valuable enough, maybe share it with others and make this collective energy even stronger, even wider, and even more resilient to all the challenges that come our way, because they will come. All it takes, as Jim Rohn used to say, stop asking for life to be easier, ask for you to be better. And this is what we are doing collectively, each and every single day with our shots of inspiration. I'm so grateful that my voice got through this presentation. I'm so grateful for you. Without you, I wouldn't be here. And I'm looking forward for this next 10 years. I cannot imagine what will unfold during these next 10 years. All I know is that each and every day we collectively choose to become a little bit better and a little bit closer to our super self. That said, I want to thank you for being here, being part of this anniversary masterclass, of this celebration. I wish my voice would allow even more, like even louder celebrations and everything. So, that said, I want, in closing, to tell you that you are in charge of your life, because simply you are in charge of your thoughts, meaning that you are also in charge of your emotional state. And this is all it takes. Giving you clarity as a last thought for an amazing 2025 and on. All you have to do is to have a clear and compelling vision and take good care of your super emotions and super beliefs. Make sure you have a super vision, super emotions, and super beliefs. This trifecta alone can do wonders for your life. And of course, in closing, once again, I want to remind you that you deserve everything you want, and we all deserve your best self. I will see you very, very soon with another masterclass, and hopefully with a much, much clearer voice. Ciao, ciao.